back to my channel. I hope you've had a good 2 weeks since we last spoke. This is going to be your reading for the upcoming full moon in Aquarius. So this happens on the 3rd of August, and it's quite a busy time astrologically, quite a fraught time from this sort of cosmic perspective. You've got a lot of challenging Mercury aspects and a Mars square to Jupiter. So I'm going to kind of get into those so that you can, it'll help you to sort of navigate that period as kind of smoothly as possible. But let's get into your reading and see what comes out with regards to this particular full moon, what the sort of your main message is, and you know, what it can tell us in terms of 3D events that can kind of elaborate on the astrology. Also, just to say that if you haven't seen my I Ching message that I did for the Lionsgate portal, you might want to watch that too. I will link it at the end of this video. But the Lionsgate portal will be open from the 26th of July through to the 12th or so of August, peaking around about the 8th of August. So you might find that helpful as well, because it does give an overall sense of the energies and how to kind of navigate that particular energy, which will obviously be another layer that will be active during this particular full moon. And of course, full moons last for about 2 weeks. So the full moon may happen on the 3rd, but then you need to consider that this begins the waning moon cycle, which you know, then colors the 14 days that follow. Oops. Oopsie. Got a few jumpers here. Anyway, there it is. No. Cards are playing up a little bit. I wish they were a little bit bigger. In fact, somebody asked me the other day whether I'd ever considered designing cards and selling them with the eBook that I've just released. And to be honest, I'm thinking of redesigning these cards anyway, because they are a little bit small and too detailed to be picked up on video. So I'm going to be redesigning them to make them simpler. And I've had a couple of requests to say that people would love to buy the cards with the book. So I'm going to be doing that, and I'll let you know. I'll announce when that is ready. Okay, I think that's shuffled enough. Let's cut the cards. Right, let's see what wants to come through, Capricorn. Interesting. So last time I think you had conjunctio in your 10th house. So this is conjunctio, which is it's all about conjunction. So it's literally conjunction in Latin, and it means union, marriage, collaboration. And so it seems as though whatever the collaboration was that was in your 10th house last time has now kind of moved to your first house. So it shows that you've kind of taken that new cycle and you've kind of incorporated, and you're working with it. So you're quite focused at the moment on collaborating, probably with one other person. Not always, but usually this is two things kind of coming together. So it could be in work or business, because that's where it appeared last time, but it could equally be working together with other people in your life in terms of relationships. So let's find out more. Okay, so populous in your 4th house. This is a house of roots, family and home, and this is really about, it's interesting, it's the home of family, but here we've got populace, which is usually about crowds. So it's about kind of group think, or crowd group situations, so kind of movements. So it's almost as though you're thinking of your family in terms of the bigger picture of like the human race, or in terms of social trends, or kind of cultural movements, that kind of thing. So I don't know whether you're thinking about relocating your family somewhere else, or whether you're kind of thinking about how social distancing and the whole kind of impact of COVID-19 is affecting your family. But certainly there does seem to be the sense of you being part of a collective, not just a small clan, but a collective, which is quite interesting. Right, when it comes to one-to-one relationships, so significant others, there does seem to be either there's conflict going on here, because this is Mars in Aries, so it can be about conflict, but it can also be about fresh starts, or just that motivation to kind of make things happen, that sort of get up and go sort of mojo kind of energy. So it does seem as though you're very motivated, perhaps to come together with one other person, and this could be for the purposes of work, or it could be in terms of romantic commitments. So again, we'll find out more when we do the geomantic figures. Okay, interesting. So it's, yes, okay, now this is a missio, so it's generally ruled by Venus in Taurus, and this geomantic figure is to a larger extent about what can't be achieved, what is unattainable. Sometimes it's about financial loss, and it can also be about, as I say, the unattainable. So it's almost as though you're having to cut your losses on some level when it comes to career, or sort of like it could be a position of public office. It could also be some other type of kind of social responsibility that you had, which involved dealing with the public, and that may be why we've got populace here. If, for example, you're in politics, or you're in some sort of public-facing role career-wise, that perhaps you've either had to step down from, resign from, or kind of let go on some level. Perhaps there's been a public backlash which has affected your family, or there's been kind of increased public support for you and your family, perhaps as a result of maybe unfair behavior. Yes, like it's almost like I keep getting this image of a professor who's had to step down from their chair for whatever reason, or a politician that's had to resign their position, perhaps due to family commitments, or due to pressure from outside, which might be kind of unfair, or because something hasn't worked out. So say, for example, a grant has been withdrawn from a particular research project, or somebody like lobby groups have taken away their support, or there's been maybe maligning and sort of mudslinging going on, and maybe the pressure's kind of got too much, so you've kind of stepped away. Those are the kinds of things that I'm getting from a missio being here, but it doesn't necessarily have to have been that dramatic. It's just that it helps me to understand why populace might be down here in your 4th house. But anyway, I'm going to pause quickly while I do the rest of the conversions and see what else comes out, so that we can drill down into the details. Welcome back, Capricorn. So as you can see, I have done the conversions, so let's dive into reading. Now, a good place to start, of course, is with that full moon. So the full moon is taking place in the sign of Aquarius, which for you is in the 2nd house. So 2nd house is all about earned income, possessions, as well as personal resources. It does cover resources like skills, as well as how we value ourselves. So this can be self-worth too. And it's interesting because if we look in the opposite house, which is where the sun will be, we've got Kase. Now Kase is Saturn, your planet in Capricorn, your sign. And Kase here can be about restrictions, impediments, feeling kind of blocked off or obstructed. Sometimes it can also be about restrictions or restraints. And generally speaking, it's kind of it's a contracting energy. So this, on the other hand, is the complete opposite. It's actually the sun in Leo, and of course we're in Leo season at the moment. So where the moon is positioned, we've actually got the geomantic figure that's ruled by the sun. Now, Fortuna Major is very interesting. It's generally good luck and success, but it can also be about inner qualities like inner strengths, you know, kind of resilience, that kind of natural charisma, personal power. And so here in the second house, given that the moon is here, and the moon usually rules, you know, emotions and the inner life, I do feel as though, you know, while things might be a little bit constricted in the outside world, on the inside world you seem to be kind of blooming and expanding. And that may be why we've got this really interesting dichotomy in your reading between these geomantic figures that are associated with kind of loss and restriction, such as a Missio here in your 10th house, Kase in your 8th and 9th house, and a Missio again in your 5th house. And then on the other hand, you know, we've got Fortuna Major here in your 2nd, and then also as the outcome of your reading. So I think really what it's saying, Capricorn, is that this is about kind of letting go of measuring yourself in terms of external circumstances, and really kind of going within and marshalling your inner resources, because from that you're almost like you're going to kind of be reborn. That's almost what I'm seeing here. So it's when we've got you here working with somebody else, I think it's almost working with yourself. I mean, it's interesting that we've got conjuncture repeated here in your 3rd house, and the 3rd house is the house of self-expression, but also about ideas. And I think it's about this is really about sort of the way that you talk to yourself, the way you think about yourself, and therefore the way that you project yourself, you know, into the world, and this then can change the dynamic completely, so that you start to vibrate a different frequency, and you start to attract to you a different sort of ilk of circumstance. Now, the other thing I will say about this is that at the time of the full moon, the sun and the moon will be making 2 aspects. One is positive, one is negative. So the first one is a square to Uranus. Now, Uranus is in Taurus here in your 5th house. The 5th house can be about children, so it can be linked to family, but it's also about what brings us joy and passion. So it's very often about creative projects, sport, you know, kind of sporting events, leisure activities. It can also be holidays and speculative ventures. So this can be, you know, joint ventures, for example. And then finally, it also rules lovers. So, you know, we do have a Missio here, which is the same as we've got in your 10th house, and a Missio is Venus in Taurus, and it's about the transience of the material world, of the 3D world. So, you know, it can be about the loss of, say, money or possessions, and in this case it could be the loss of, for example, you know, say a holiday. Maybe a holiday gets cancelled at the last minute because of COVID-19 travel restrictions. You know, here in the UK, those are fluctuating quite a lot. So a lot of people are booking holidays and then getting caught short at the last minute when the travel advice changes. So it could be as literal as that, but it could also be about loss in the sense of you know, for example, being separated and missing a child, or a breakup. I mean, if Puer here is about conflict, then it could well be that, you know, this is about the loss of a sort of a new love relationship, that it hasn't really gone anywhere. Or it could be that it's more about, you know, kind of loss, you know, in a... yeah, I mean, as I say, it can be sort of ephemeral, or it can be physical. So it could be, for example, loss of face, you know, a sense of like loss of prestige or status. And of course, for Capricorn, that is quite a big deal. But, you know, on the other hand, maybe this is kind of forcing you to really decide what is of true value and worth. So, you know, this is the sort of the lesson of a Missio is... you know, not to necessarily place too much worth or value on external kind of qualities. So, you know, not looking for validation from other people, not necessarily wanting validation in terms of status, in terms of money, career, success, but instead, you know, valuing things that are more lasting and kind of that nothing can take away from you. And this could be why we've got Casa here in the 8th and the 9th house, because the 9th house is about our beliefs and the way that we view the world. So this is our philosophical beliefs. The 8th house can be about shared positions, so it can be about things that we share with significant others, such as a business partner or a spouse, but it can also be about those things that we share that are immaterial. So it can be about, trust. It can be about sort of goodwill in a business partnership. It can be about sort of ideas, for example, if you're collaborating with somebody, or it could be about intimacy. If you think that the 8th house is about kind of secrets or being really vulnerable, then intimacy is really letting your guard down and sort of letting somebody in, and that requires a great amount of trust. So it could be here that you're actually shifting from that sort of external perspective to a more kind of internal based perspective, and you're finding that some of your beliefs or your beliefs either about the world or about relationships are being forced to change as a result. And that may be why we've got this sort of like dichotomy between the moon and the sun in terms of geomantic figures. Now, with Uranus being here in your 5th house in Taurus, and it making a T-square to the sun and the moon, I would say that this is about sudden endings, or kind of cutting out what is no longer serving you. And very often this can happen quite abruptly when it comes to Uranus, so you may not necessarily expect this kind of ending, but it's usually kind of sudden but final. So as I say, it could be that something is being taken from your life, but it's because it's not really serving you in the sort of in terms of the bigger picture. And then the other more positive aspect that the sun and the moon are making are to Chiron. Now, Chiron's in your 4th house, so the house of family and home, and Chiron is the wounded healer. So Chiron is retrograde currently, which means that we are talking about kind of past wounds, looking back and kind of learning important lessons. And given that we've got these really positive aspects to Chiron, I do think that there's a kind of healing experience to do with family roots and the past, memories perhaps of early childhood that have kind of stayed with you and that may have been wounding. And this may explain why we've got these sort of difficult kind of geomantic figures when it comes to relationships, that it's something that's rooted in a childhood wound that needs to sort of shift or be healed in order for this energy to shift too. So that may be why you've got all these kind of difficult geomantic figures being reflected back to you, and yet the full moon is showing that within this lies the kernel of something great. So I think this is kind of character building stuff, Capricorn, and I know you're not one to shy away from those kinds of experiences. So it may explain the outcome of this reading, which is really from kind of heartache and sadness. There's an opportunity to rethink, to sort of start again. This is a blank slate. This is about getting mental clarity, so seeing why certain things have happened in your life, particularly negative things, and from that drawing enormous strength, developing as a person, really coming into your power. And from there, I think that everything is going to shift. So if we think about this full moons do bring things to a head or a culmination. They bring things to light, so there is a certain degree of illumination happening, but they also bring things to a close. So this is a 2-week cycle in which perhaps you are shedding certain old wounds that may have been affecting your relationship with children and lovers, with significant others or partners, as well as those that you as well as your beliefs about relationships and about kind of things like intimacy, trust, shared resources, collaboration. And this may be what is needed for you to sort of move forward, which is why we've got conjuncture twice. So it may be that you kind of in the process of discussing some kind of collaboration with someone, and it's not going well, or you're having your doubts, and through this experience you may get clarity and you may shift, and this may change the dynamic completely. So I think, even though on the face of it things may look difficult, see the lesson, see the nugget in this experience and transmute it, as a result, because I think then after this 2-week cycle, I think things are going to shift quite dramatically in a positive direction. That's certainly what Fortuna Major, which is the outcome of your reading and is the symbol of the moon, the full moon here, seems to be suggesting. So quite a sort of a subtle reading, Capricorn. I hope it's been useful. If it has, do let me know in the comments if it's resonated, and I'd love it if you would hit the like or the subscribe button if you're enjoying these readings. And as I say, do check out that message from the I Ching for the Lionsgate portal, because it will play into this energy that's around during the 2-week period of the waning moon cycle. And the other thing, of course, is keep an eye on my social media feeds, where I do regular updates on the astrological weather, the sort of cosmic weather, as far as the planets are concerned, which may shed more light on certain trends or things that I've mentioned in this reading. But anyway, I'm wishing you all the best for the upcoming full moon, and I'll catch you again for my new moon forecast in 2 weeks.